hello everyone, and welcome to the NFL version of Proline, direct from Las Vegas, the gaming capital of the world. It's week 9 of the NFL season. I'm John Cranton, joined by Las Vegas handicappers Hollis Barnhart and Zach Simony. We're going to take a look at the upcoming games. Before we get to that, we're going to have some topics, and let's tell you what we have going on for the weekend. Hollis, you're on that 51-31 run since August 1st. You're off a 3-1 weekend. That included a handicapper 3-pack attack that's on JimFeist.com. You get 3 plays, 1 package from Jim Feist, Zach, and Harvard. And Harvard, you had the Pac-12 game of the month, which was a big winner on Saturday. Congratulations.
Well, thanks. My contribution was Utah, and they played at home, pick'em game, and I believe that was the first Pac-12 game they've ever won, and they are in the mix for the all the way through the Pac-12 title game. If they can just keep that run going, they look great, they play well, and they beat a very good USC Trojan team. So congratulations on Utah for your first Pac-12 victory. My best bet on the show last week, Kansas State. Boy, did they look good. Shutting out Texas, or maybe Texas just looks bad. That brings my best bet record up on this show to 6-3. And if that wasn't good enough, I went 3-0 on the show, and my picks went 3-1 for the weekend, all at JimFeist.com. And let me just give you a little tiny preview about what's to come up this week. I have 100% double systems game of the year going on Saturday in the colleges, and a college game in a situation that's never lost. Now, I've been doing this for 32 years. The database goes back 32 years, since 1982. This system is only 8 years old, but it's still in a system that's never, ever lost, and that'll be on JimFeist.com, along with my Sunday AFC rival game of the year. So these are 3 different types of games, all 3 winners, and for the record, it shows I'm 20 games over 500. So if you're a dime a game player, that's $20,000 minus some juice. But here's even more important. You got to start getting in to JimFeist.com and purchase these plays. You know, we in the games last night, and then here we are on a Tuesday redoing something, and we don't have a whole lot of information, and look how well we've done. But if you want to get part of that 20 games plus package or something like that, come to JimFeist.com and click on that Harvard. These 3 games, all 3 games of the year, $66, and I'm telling you right now, you will go 3-0.
That's right, Harvard. There's money to be made in Las Vegas. And Zach, boy, you've been sizzling all season long. NFL record 25-6-1, 81%, 23-14 in college football, 62%. How can folks get aboard the winning for this weekend?
Yeah, you mentioned it, John. Thank you for the compliments there. I still can't believe the run I'm in the NFL. Had a couple of close wins this week. I mean, it seems to be a theme every week. Close wins. The numbers are so great in the NFL. But Cincinnati, I went from thinking we had it locked, and then all of a sudden Andy Dalton has a few turnovers. But he came back strong for that win there, so that was a close win. And then Jacksonville, Miami, best bet winner on the show, the under. And for some reason, I talked about Blake Bortles and his mistakes, but I didn't think he was going to gift Miami 14 points on 2 pick sixes. So the number got really close at the end. Thank goodness for a interception in the end zone to offset those pick sixes. But 40 was the final total number in that one. Came under the 43.5 that I talked about on the show. And a couple other winners with New England blowout winner and the over on Sunday Night Football. So NFL 4-1 right there, and then college football was 2-0 on Saturday, like 2 totals, and they both came in, Central Michigan and Buffalo. I actually watched this on the sports betting when Jim Feist was talking about weather patterns coming into play, so I kind of looked at it, and Buffalo got hit hard. They talked Tuesday. I looked at it, and there were strong winds forecasted for later in the week, even though it was calm on Tuesday. And lo and behold, the weather forecast was actually correct. I think it was 30 mile an hour winds with two teams in the MAC. You're not going to have strong, talented arms there, so they really weren't throwing the ball real well, and that came in under the total solidly. And then over in Arizona and Washington State, that was the theme of the Pac-12, except for USC and Utah, but overs in Pac-12. You're going to see more and more of that as these teams try to rise in the BCS standings, because the Pac-12 is getting no love. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to be like the Big 12, score. So ASU, Utah, Oregon, maybe UCLA. Keep an eye on those teams for scoring a lot of points.
Yeah, and Saturday is November 1st, remember, and that starts to bring up cooler, windier weather and even snow in certain parts of the country. That's a new factor to consider when handicapping. Jim Feist is on a hot run as well, 24-14 in football the last 2 weeks, 4-1 with college football games of the month. He had his Big 12 game of the month Saturday with West Virginia, an easy cover. In fact, that was part of the handicapper 3-pack with these other two guys that we had for Saturday. And coming up this weekend, he has a high roller play in the NFL Sunday, plus his NFL Monday night total of the year, his top total. You can find those plays and more at jimfeist.com. All right, before we get into a couple of NFL showdown games going this weekend, you got college football taking place plus NFL this weekend. Harvey, we'll start with you. What do you see coming up on the agenda?
Well, my contribution to the colleges this week is all over the board, naturally, with the bowl selection committee coming out 7:30 on Tuesday with their first of 7 public rankings. Now, here's the scenario. They're going to be ranking these teams for the next 7 weeks, and then on December the 7th, they're going to give their final, and that will be who the top 4 are for their playoff. I kind of like it. I thought maybe we should have 8 playoff teams, but you know what? With these 4, it gives it some relevance. If we were having 8, then everybody would be in already, and there'd be really nothing to play for. It wouldn't be that much excitement. There's a lot of excitements. Look at this. They got Mississippi State and Florida State, your 2 undefeateds. Then you have 18 one-loss teams. Now, the Bowl Selection Committee met over the weekend. They met in a hotel in Texas, and they were all issued, next to the coat racks, a white hat. Everyone had to put on a white hat before they entered the room, and what it was a little symbolism that they wanted all the prejudices to be thrown out the window, no matter where they went to school, what conference they went to, no matter what they did, and they said, put on this white hat and let it represent a non-partial type, look into this, selection committee stuff. But white hats were issued. Now, when you go over Mississippi State, they're coming up a couple of weeks. They're going to be playing in the Egg Bowl, and who could tell what's going to happen? They get to play Ole Miss. Mississippi State, by far, I think, is the strongest team in the country this year. I also believe that they're the only team in the history of the rankings that's ever been unranked and now has a number 1 seeding. Florida State, your number 2 team, they play a very, very difficult game this Thursday at Louisville, and no telling how they'll come out of that. I really think I can see Louisville upsetting them, but who knows? Alabama and Auburn, they're going to be playing in the Iron Bowl. Notre Dame, they still have a couple games that they could maybe lose, but I think they're going to sweep the board and go all the way through. When you get to the Pac-10, that's one of the more interesting. If the selection committee wants something, and I believe when they first started off this September, the Pac-12 was either the strongest or maybe the second strongest conference. So let's assume that they're going to take somebody. Well, Oregon, they could get knocked off by Stanford, who usually knocks them off anyway. So we'll find out a lot about Oregon this week as they meet Stanford. And the line did open at 11. It's already been bet down to 9.5. So a lot of people know what Stanford's capable against this Oregon team. But then you got somebody like Arizona, who I believe will upset UCLA this week. That knocks Arizona or moves them up. You got a really strong Utah team. That was my best bet last week that just came in and knocked off USC. So you have a lot, and it could be the north for Oregon. It could be the south for Utah, and who knows, maybe Utah gets there. The problem with Utah getting there is even if they run the table, I don't know that the Bowl Selection Committee will put a whole lot of stuff on Utah because they've just been out of the public spotlight. But if they do it fair and just look at what they've done on the field and not what the media has written about, they are very well represented. So that's going to come down to that. When you get to the Big 12, you got TCU. And speaking of TCU, you got to love these guys. You know, after they blew that game to Baylor, they come back and they tattoo 82 points on the board last week against Texas Tech. Now, going back 2 years on the Texas or TCU basketball team, we only found 2 times did they score 82 points or higher in 2 years in basketball. So that shows you how many points this TCU team scored, put up. In fact, they shoot fireworks off after every touchdown. They ran out of fireworks. It's probably the first time that's ever happened. But you got to get excited about the boys from TCU. Their biggest competition, Baylor and Kansas State. So that could go anywhere. When you go up north to the Big Ten, I don't believe, unless they, who knows, maybe they just want to honor, the Big Ten conference. But you got Michigan State. Naturally, they're going to be playing Ohio State. A lot will be said there. But you also got a very good Nebraska team. They're sneaking up with a 1 loss, and they just keep controlling their own destiny. Who knows where they'll end up? But I just can't see a Big Ten conference going there. And then when we go back into the SEC, what are they going to do? I don't think they'll ever put 3 teams from one conference in. So it could come down to Georgia. If they can just win the SEC East, they might have a clean slate ahead of just controlling their own destiny. They're one of the few that get to. Keep in mind, Alabama plays Auburn, Mississippi State plays Ole Miss. So a lot of these teams, yes, they control it, but they control it on the field. Georgia can get there just by showing up. So I like something like that. But there's a lot of 18 one-loss teams, a lot of action. Come back to jimfeiss.com. There'll be plenty of articles, and there'll also be plenty of games involving these teams. And I think the Bowl Selection Committee is going to do a great job for, college sports. And, let's get on board. I know Zach has a couple of thoughts, so let's see what his thinking is.
And the only thing I'll add to that is the parity this year in college football is probably at an all-time high. So this is going to be something interesting here. I love the timing of this release tonight of these top 4, top 6 teams. And the reason being is, look at the scheduling in college football. It's tailored towards getting your team to this point. So a lot of teams, if you look at their schedule, they have the 2 or 3 cupcake games, and they have they ease into their conference play. But over the next 6 weeks, you're going to see that nobody can avoid it. So each team in that top 6, top 10 is going to have 3 to 4 tough matchups, and we're going to be seeing that rotate every week, that new top 4, top 6 teams. And those marked teams, they're going to start going down. I could see Florida State going down. I can definitely see Alabama losing again. And just go on and on with it. So keep in mind that as the odds makers here in Vegas and offshore, they're gonna adjust these lines based on these, because people are gonna look at that. Oh wow, this team's number 1 projected. That doesn't mean it's gonna be that way in 4 to 5 weeks. And they're gonna I'll guarantee you, if you play against the spread on these top 4 to 6 teams over the next 5 to 6 weeks, you'll come out above 55% against the spread.
All right, the team in college football that I'm going to mention is one that is playing a team that Harvard just mentioned. That is Florida. Georgia's playing this weekend. Florida Gators 3-3 on the season. But boy, if they're going to make a bowl game, they got games against Georgia and number 2 Florida State on deck. Let's assume they lose 2. There's only 3 other games left. Eastern Kentucky they can win, but the other 2 games at Vandy and South Carolina at home is a tough matchup here if they're going to try and make a bowl. And the good news for Florida is the last game, right? They just played a monster defensive effort against Missouri, allowed 119 total yards. Oh, well, they lost 42-13, despite outgaining them 283 to 119. Absolutely astounding. And it was 6 turnovers that did the trick for that unusual blowout. And the problem with Florida is the same problem it was a year ago. The offense is killing them. They're 94th in the country in passing, 61st in rushing. They have 2 quarterbacks who combined for 9 touchdowns and 11 picks, despite overhauling that coaching staff on offense. It just hasn't happened. So that is something to watch. The pressure on the Gators, whether they pull together and pull out some wins or if begin to implode. Okay, let's move on to
their athletic director would not even acknowledge Muscamp as he left the field last week in Missouri.
Yeah, it is a very interesting situation worth watching.
They should get rid of him.
Well, it's probably going to happen if they don't make a bowl, because they struggled badly last year with a couple of late embarrassing defeats.
Well, watch what Georgia does to him this week. He might not make the
might not make halftime.